All right, got the video. Oh. Hey, Luminous Warriors, this is Natalie Griffin coming at you live from the Naughty Shaman Recording Studios, which today are the beautiful headquarters of Naughty Shaman in Glastonbury, Connecticut. I'm so happy to be talking with you today. I've been waiting to make this podcast for a little while, and I'm so happy to be doing it now in winter time. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is winter time, and this is, for me, the dreaming time. The whole world slows down, the nights get lusciously long, and we find ourselves often a little more tired, a little more fatigued. It's a time of regeneration. The tree roots are going down into the earth and regenerating, and bulbs are cozy and softly snug down in the earth. And we get a chance too to kind of go into the deep recesses of our psyche, and many of us find ourselves dreaming a little more often during this time of year. And so this entire podcast is dedicating to dreams. What are they? How do they work? And what's the deal? Now, I consider myself a dream expert. And so I want to leave you with, at the end of the podcast, some tips for how you can dream better. I've picked up a couple of these practices for the winter because I want to revisit this gift of mine and grow it. Those of you who remember your dreams, you've got a gift. So you can practice growing that. Those of you who don't remember your dreams very often or at all, you can cultivate this skill. It is a skill, and like, working out your bicep, it takes a little bit of practice. But here is what I've come to know about dreams. I started dreaming when I was extremely small. And when I was little, I used to dream of the end of the world all the time. I don't know if it was residue from other incarnations or some connection that I had with people in my family, but often there were cataclysmic events going on in these dreams of this 3 and 4-year-old mind. And I would wake up in the middle of the night screaming about drowning, and everybody's drowning or everybody's dying. And I'm sure my parents, and I know they were just beside themselves with fear and grief, because they didn't know what to do. And they wondered if I was going to be okay, if I was having a psychotic episode. Turns out I just had a gift. So these dreams, I learned at a very young age, were not something that everyone experienced to the depth and detail and somatic sensation that I would. For some of us, when we go into our dream time, we have an ability, and many call this lucid dreaming, but we have a presence in that dream time where we can feel things and smell things and touch things and know things. It's not every single dream that happens for most of us, but it is available to us, and it can be extremely intense. So if you have little ones who have dreams, definitely listen to this podcast and be able to give them a context for what's happening to them, because what they have is a tremendous gift, but they will need to cultivate it. So there are a couple of different kinds of dreams that I want to talk about that I've learned. I have 8 journals filled with dreams from ages, I don't know, I didn't start journaling when I was 3. I started dreaming when I was 3. And then I started journaling very soon after that because I needed a way to kind of capture what was happening to me in this other life. It was almost like another life I was living. And I'm going to share with you some of the incredible dreams that I had, because they fall into some categories that I know some of you who dream also have. So one of the things that I want to say also about dreaming in general is, not only is it a gift and it's a skill that you can practice, but it is also a beautiful place to gather information from spiritual reality. Dreaming is essentially shamanic journey, but uncontrolled. So when we as shamans journey into spiritual reality, we are doing so often with an intention and a point of clarity, a talisman, a point of focus, a touchstone. And when we are nighttime dreaming, we are often left to the whims of our subconscious mind. And so the first kind of dream, this is kind of the first layer of dream that many, many people experience, is what I would consider the rehashing or the refreshing of our system. So during our day, we pick up on images. We might watch a movie, we might see an ad at the bus stop, we might have a conversation with a friend, and the data from these dreams are going into our energy system all day, or from the daytime. So the data from our day is going into our energy field all day. Some of it we are aware of, like, oh, what an idiot, that was a terrible conversation, I wish I would have said this. That's something we're cognizant of. But then there's data that we're picking up energetically that goes in subconsciously, but it's still picked up by our very absorbent energy bodies. And so when we close our eyes and go to sleep, what that does is it gives our subconscious mind permission to kind of open the floodgates and kind of purge or data dump all of the data that is unnecessary for the day. So you might find yourself dreaming about walking down a path and there's a bench that looks just like the bench at your bus stop, but there's a guy sitting there and you have this weird conversation in the dream. And then the next scene, you're all of a sudden at work and you don't have any clothes and you're scared because it reminds you of being scared in that meeting that you were at where you didn't have your report and it felt a lot like you were naked without your homework in high school. And so these metaphorical dreams often will collect data from our daily lives, superimpose the emotional content of our day, and then jettison them. So in this way, our dream time can be so valuable because it's, for me, in my context, a system of releasing the energetic data that we don't need any longer. So this, for me, is super powerful, level 1 dreaming. The next kind of dream that I have experienced, and I know many of you have, and many people come here to the center to help understand dreaming, and it's the dream that draws them here, because who are you going to talk to about your dreams? There are not many places to go anymore. Well, come to the center, give us a call. We'll talk to you all over the world about your dreams because we are experts at this, because we get it. And the second kind of dream is what I would categorize as a healing dream. So sometimes the data that we collect in our energy field that goes in subconsciously is difficult data. We end up receiving data that somehow tells us we're in danger or that we're bad or there's some bad juju in the relationship, but we're like in love, so we don't want to look at it. But that energetic junk kind of goes in under the radar for us. And so in the dream time, what happens is the universe loves us so much that it will bring to light these fears, these wounds, these pain, so that we can see it in the safety of our dream time and begin to understand it. So again, it's the energetic data with the emotional overlay that brings new things into our awareness. I'm going to give you an example. A long time ago, I was in a relationship. It was a long time ago. I think I was in my 20s. And I was in a relationship that was one of those relationships where it really looked good on paper and it should have been awesome. But there was something about the dynamic that was not awesome at all and left me feeling broken and weary most of the time. So I remember really having this intense dream, and I journaled about it the next day, where I was walking down a path and all of a sudden my stomach just clenched and I vomited on the ground, and I was like hands and knees on the ground, sweating and vomiting, and like, what happened? It was like I got hit by some flu, whammy, and I couldn't control myself. And I was just vomiting and I was getting scared in my dream about all of this sickness that was around me and in me, and I couldn't get all this sickness out. And a woman came to me in that dream, and I remember she gently put her hand on my shoulder, and she had this blue robe on. It was like kind of tattered, but linen and really soft and yummy, that old worn linen, but blue. And she had long gray hair, and she didn't say much, but she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "Where is this pain?" And I just looked at my body and I put my hands on it and I was like, it just hurts so much. And she said, "Grab one." And I was thinking to myself, what the hell are you talking about, lady? Grab one. And all of a sudden I looked down, and right here in my abdomen, right above my hip bone, was what I can only describe as a ball of sharp pine needles embedded in my flesh. And it was all bloody and fleshy and gross and pine needly. And I was like, holy crap, where did that come from? But I grabbed it and I kind of gently pulled it out of my stomach. And she said, "Name it." And I'm like, "Loneliness." And I was surprised by the words coming out of my mouth in my dream. And she said, "Now throw it in the sun." And I just took this ball of gooey flesh of all my loneliness and I threw it up in the sun and it burst into flames. And then that wound healed. And then there was another one of those pine needle balls into my heart. And I was like, oh. And she said, pull it out. And so I gently pulled it out. It was all covered in goo and so nasty. And she said, name it. And I named it fear. And I threw it up into the sun. And then there were like 3 more little balls of these gooey pine needle embedded in my flesh. And then she rubbed the like water from this river down through the front of my body, and all the wounds healed after I threw 7 pine needle balls into the sun, each of them with a name: loneliness, fear, pain, loss, death. There were so many things that I was carrying that my energy system needed to purge. And this dream enabled me to heal it on a level that I could not have accessed in talk therapy, that I could not have accessed so quickly really in any other therapy. So this is an example of healing dreams. Often dreams that are healing dreams can be gross, for lack of a better word. Sometimes there's vomiting. Sometimes you're getting an arm chopped off. Sometimes you're burying something in the ground. Sometimes something is sprouting out of the ground. Sometimes something is sprouting out of your eyes. The healing, something is changing physically in your body often. And it's important not to go to a place of fear with it, but to look at it through a lens of symbolism and what is being healed here. And I love that dream with the pine needle balls because it's the same technique. With a healing dream, you want to look at it and you want to name it, and then you want to release it. And that's how to get the most out of the healing dreams that you're having out there. Anything you're purging, anything you're releasing, anything you're collecting, anything you're drinking in a dream, name it. Drink it, feel it. One time I remember this other dream. I was kind of riding through the cosmos. I don't even know how. You sometimes just fly through the cosmos in my dreams. And I remember someone told me, grab that. And I put out my hand in like a star. And I just had like this peach colored ball of light in my hand. And then this guide said, eat it. And I remember like taking a bite out of the starlight. And it was like a peach. And I remember the starlight was running down my mouth. And I was like, wow. And I remember writing about it the next day. And for me, that light was literally a lightness. My life had been so heavy with a lot of death and illness and destruction. But that lightness started to return to me after I ate this peach of a star. So healing dreams, this is the second category. So we've got the rehash and refresh dream. And then we also have this healing dream thing where the symbols get a little more rich and the emotions get a little more intense. And then there's this next level of dream that I want to talk about. And this kind of dreaming is kind of varsity dreaming. If you're having any of these kind of dreams, I'm giving you the slow high five, because if you're having a teacher or a visitor in your dream, for instance, there is your grandma in a dream, or your dog that died in a dream. Someone's visiting you in a dream, and maybe you're having a conversation with them. That's some high level shit right there. Awesome. Keep that up. If you're also meeting this woman who came in blue, like a teacher, a guide, and they're helping you in your dreams, amazing. This is a sign of someone who's connected to spirit guides, known and unknown. Known and unknown. You are connected to energy and beings around the world. And so it's kind of cool to have these teacher dreams. I'm going to tell you a crazy story about one of the dreams that I had with teachers. And teaching dreams, like having teachers visit me in my dreams, was something that happened to me very young. And I think it was sort of spirit's way of saying, listen, we know your parents have no idea what's going on with you, so we're going to send you a bunch of teachers in your dreams to help you make sense of who you are in the world, because it's weird that you're on the planet, you mere mortal. So I really appreciate that, universe. Mwah, you're the best, because I had so many teachers visiting me when I was small, and I still do now to this day. So one of my favorite dreams about teachers visiting in dreams was and this is another example of, I had a visitor in the dream, which was my best friend at the time named Hillary, and Hillary had the same dream as I did on the same night about the same place. And I remember we were in high school, and we were driving to high school in my car, smoking cigarettes, being bad girls. We're on our way to whatever class we're going to. And I was like, dude, I had the craziest dream last night, and it was about a lion, and there was a throne, and it was nuts. And she looked at me and was like, I had a dream last night about a lion and a throne. So I pulled over the car, and I remember we had this intense conversation. We missed first period. We were like, whoa, this is crazy. Because this is an example of a visitor in my dream, which is my best friend. And I often dream of people that I'm deeply connected to. And also sort of a cosmic visitor or a cosmic teacher was present in this dream as well. So my dream of the lion-headed throne is this. I remember walking through the desert in my dream, and I came upon a temple that was kind of down in a valley of a desert, and it was a little bit hidden, and it had 4 entrances of north, south, east, and west. And it was like a clay adobe kind of a temple that was very open air, and there were openings to come in either side. And I remember I walked into one of the doorways, and there was this reflecting pool right in front of me, but it was as if time had passed. So the reflecting pool had like pond scum on it, and it was cobwebby, and then up these stairs to the right was this throne with lion paws on the hands and feet and a lion head behind it. And it was this lion-headed throne. And again, it was dusty and covered in cobwebs. So I was like, wow, that's intense. And then something in my dream said, dive in. So I dove into this reflecting pool. And when I came up out of the water, the temple had transformed and the lion had come to life. And so this giant lion, this giant stone lion, comes down the stairs, like so intense, with his big heavy paws and his giant head. And in his paw, he had a scroll. And he sat down next to me, next to the reflecting pool, and he unrolled this giant scroll that had different geometric designs on it, and different constellations and pyramids and different holes in the ground and pictures of forest. It was like this map of how it all began, of how life happened here. And I remember in this dream kind of feeling what people often will refer to as like a quickening, or like your heart races and your blood pumps, and like it's awareness and gigantic awakening. It's like an upload of some kind is happening. And I remember feeling that way in my dream, like, holy smoke, something super intense and good is happening right now. So the lion kind of breaks down, like how we all got here, why we're here, who am I, who is he, what are we all doing here together? And then he took this scroll, he rolled it back up, and he shoved it in my heart. And I remember thinking, how am I going to remember all that stuff? And he was like, no, he waved his little paw at me, and he's like, no, it's in there. And I was like, well, okay. And I woke up, and I know for the life of me, if I was like a super, master dreamer, maybe I'd be able to write down every single thing he taught me. But I only remembered a handful of things and some of the symbols. But that feeling of it's in there. This is an example of a visitor, a teacher in a dream. They've come to teach you. There's a notebook, and they're going to go through it with you. Or there's a book, and they need to show it to you. You eat a book, or you eat a piece of paper. You somehow ingest some knowledge that is for you. And oftentimes our conscious mind can't always grasp everything that's in these gifts that come from spirit in our dream time. And so we won't always remember the words, is what I've come to realize. But what we do remember, and the power of this again, is the energetic content with the emotional overlay. So we get this upload into our energetic system that creates space for new feelings of hope, of worthiness, of love. And we might not be able to describe every line item on that scroll, but there's something about that scroll that awakened new coordinates. And so in this way, the teaching dreams are not only about the teachers or the visitors, but they're also healing dreams. And that's the 3rd level of dream. Now, the 4th level of dream, some of you are doing this on accident, and it's so cool. And people are always like, oh, I dreamt about my cousin and she got into a car accident. Do I need to call her? Is she going to get in a car accident? Because sometimes when we dream about people, we wonder if they're prophetic. A lot of times they are not. A lot of times what we're capturing is data of what is possible to become. It doesn't mean it's gonna become. There are thousands of destiny lines available to us at any given moment, and all of them are dependent upon a million people's choices. So when you're reading the future, or you're thinking that you're having a prophetic dream, it's possible, perhaps, that you're gathering like one data blip on one of a million possibilities that exist. So when they're fearful, prophetic dreams, this is category 4, is prophetic dreams, which do exist, but often we mistake them. They're healing symbolic dreams. So when someone dies in a dream, it doesn't mean they're literally going to die in this life. Often that's a question of, what does that person symbolize for you, and what in you is getting ready to kind of die off, quote unquote? What in you is getting ready to fall away? Maybe it's your fear. Maybe it's addiction to something else. Maybe it's, who knows what's getting ready to die. Maybe it's the way that you're a sister together. Maybe it's the way you relate to all women. Something in that is going to die, not necessarily your sister. It's symbolic death in our dreams. But there is a category of prophetic dream. And these people that have these are dumbfounded by them, and it can be very terrifying. And I was definitely one of those people. Now I have them, and it's amazing. I had one not long ago, about a little over a year ago. Someone I loved was getting a letter about a new job, and I remember having this dream, and I could see him at this desk, and there were these letters kind of moving around, and there was a letter, and he was like super excited, like, hey, look at the letter. And I was like, what a weirdo dream. So I was like, the next day, like, hey, it's a dream about you, and these were these letters that were floating around, and it was about a new job. And it was all kind of written out there, and I got to see that. So that was an example of a prophetic dream, a dream of something that is happening in the dream that ends up happening a little bit later. Prophetic dreams happen, I think, only for our benefit. It's not that we need to intervene, or it's a sign that something needs to change, or it's a sign whatever. I often take these kind of dreams when they come to pass as a little nod and a wink from the universe. Sometimes when we have those glimpses into potential futures, it's just a nod and a wink from the universe to let you know that you are thought of, that there is a connection, that magic is real, that energy is real. It's a chance to reclaim or recommit to our understanding of the cosmos, that there's something bigger at play here that's a mystery, that we can't really explain through science, that we can't really explain through any scientific methodology, but it's there and it's real. And one time, and I'm going to close with this story about a dream. I had a dream that I was walking down a path, and there was a crow squawking in my ear, like, caw, 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 caw. And I was like trying to shoo it away, because I was like, man, he's going to eat my hair or something weird. Get away from me, Mr. Crow. And it was bugging me. And so finally I stopped walking, and the crow flew in front of me and landed on a branch. And this crow had a tiny little scroll attached to its leg. And I remember thinking, well, isn't that peculiar? And all of a sudden, before my very eyes, this crow flew down and turned into this super tall African-American woman with a scroll in her hand. She's buck naked in the middle of this forest. I was like, whoa. And she's holding this scroll, and she's like, we need to talk. She unrolled the scroll again with the lion, same thing. And she starts to tell me about all this stuff and and she's like, we're going to talk later, okay? We're going to talk. And she kept looking in my eyes and making sure I was looking in her eyes. And she's like, we're going to talk. And I was like, when? Can't we talk now? What's going on? And poof, the dream was over. So about a year and a half later, in real life, I was working at SeaWorld. I managed a little restaurant at SeaWorld where I made about $750,000 worth of French fries and hot dogs and hamburgers. And my friend Hillary, my dream partner, calls, says, hey, let's go to the Shoshone Indian Reservation. They're doing some protesting about, nuclear bomb testing. They're doing like 7 days of healing ceremonies. Why don't you quit your job, jump in the car, pick me up in Austin, Texas, and we'll go up to Vegas. And I'm like, okay. So I quit my job, jump in the car, go pick up Hillary. We drive up to Vegas. On the way there, I'm telling her about this dream about the crow. And she's like, wow, that's crazy. And she's talking about her dreams. So we get to the Shoshone Indian Reservation, like the middle of the night. We're sneaking in, trying to be quiet. We put up our tent, we zonk out, we wake up at 5 a.m. because there's a sunrise fire ceremony, and, we drag our asses to the ceremony. We have no idea what's going to happen. We're all in a circle. They're chanting, the winds of the north, and and white buffalo, all these things. We're like, this is the most awesome thing we've ever experienced. But it was super sacred, and the circle was cast around this giant bonfire. The bonfire was bigger than I was. It was so tall. And the sun is starting to come up, and then the circle's already sacred. We're all got instructions about the tobacco and making prayers, and we're all ready. And this Escalade comes up with like high beams on this fire ceremony, and I'm like, whoa, that is like the rudest person ever. And I totally cop an attitude because I've been at a fire ceremony now for 10 minutes. I'm clearly an expert. So I have all this attitude about who shows up to a fire ceremony late, and I can't believe it, and the nerve of this person, and and this woman gets out in a red cloak and she wraps it around her with a great big flourish, and I'm completely annoyed by this whole entire scene. And sure enough, she stands between me and Hillary. And I'm telling you, my skin was on fire. I was like, I am so irritated by this person. I wish they would go away. No. So she goes into the fire to make her prayers. And all I can see is the back of her head. She goes into the fire. She's talking about how she had been to see the white buffalo calf that was born. And that's why she's late, is because she was told to be here this morning for the ceremony. And she offered apologies for the lateness. And she threw her tobacco into the fire, and the fire went whoosh, and smoke went up. And this is in real life. This is actual real life. Smoke went up. She comes around from behind the fire, and it was the woman, the African-American woman from my dream. And I almost fell down. So then she came back to stand right beside me, and then the fire ceremony was ended. She was the last person to make prayers. So afterwards, I'm like, oh my face is like melting off. I'm like, no way, I dreamt about that woman like a year ago, and she had a scroll. Oh my God. And I'm telling Hillary, and Hillary's like, go talk to her. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You just don't talk to people like that. I'm totally in panic mode. And so I'm standing there kind of like a 12-year-old boy at a dance who wants to ask a girl to dance but doesn't know how. So I'm standing there looking at her awkwardly like, eh. And she finally sensed me there being annoying, and she grabs like the scruff of my shirt and pulls my face into her face and looks me right in the eyes and says, what do you want from me? I start crying, and I'm like, I had a dream about you, and I had this scroll in my hand, and you were talking, and you were this crow, and then you were a woman, and then you had a scroll. I don't know what's happening to me right now. And she looked at me in the face and said, it's you. You did dream about me. My name is Shaman Standing Crow. And you're part of the reason I'm here. And I was like, holy shit. And then she said, and I'm giving a talk later tonight in the secret temple. It's like up over this thing, and drew a little map on my hand, and she's like, meet me there at 8. We're doing a little talk, just a few people. Why don't you and your friend come? I'm like, okay. So at like 8 o'clock, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to tromp off into the middle of the desert to go to this strange, weird secret temple and talk to this strange, weird woman that was a crow in my dream, and da-da-da. And off we go. And we get there right around sundown, and guess what temple it was? It was an adobe temple with 4 doors to the north, south, east, and west. And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. That dream I'd had 5 or 6 years earlier. And then in there, you'll never guess what was inside that temple in the middle of the Vegas desert. A lion-headed throne, my friends. I kid you not, I have a picture on my mantle at home. A lion-headed throne. It was made of onyx, and it was to the goddess, in honor of the goddess Sekhmet. How in the world there is this adobe temple with a goddess of Sekhmet throne in it, with the crow woman, and all of these storylines converged on the Shoshone Indian Reservation? I have no idea, other than it had to be a wink and a nod from the universe. And that night, Shaman Standing Crow gave a talk about us, my friends. This brings me back to you. She gave a talk that night about the rainbow people, and that there is now a gathering of the tribes, and that we are all a part of this rainbow people, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin, and it will continue to matter less. And the indigenous teachings will be flooding all races, and that we will be brought together by this, that all roads are merging, and the rainbow people are being brought together to rebalance things here, and to remind us of who we are, and to remind us of the joys of living. And so, my friends, that's when my dream of the luminous army came, the rainbow people, the gathering of the tribes. And I kind of believe that now we really are in the gathering of the tribes. And some predictions of human populace over the next generation is that the bloodlines will be so mixed, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, all of it, mixed so much that we truly are in our blood becoming a gathering of nations, and that what once were lines between us become invisible, that we are in fact becoming a gathering of the tribes. And so it is with this for you to dream better. Dream better dreams in your night by honoring them. Write them down, pray for them, hope for them, ask for them. People are listening. And as we dream better in our night dreams, then we can dream better in our daydreams. And in Aboriginal societies, the dream time is the time here on the planet where we are in physical space. This is in fact the dream that we are living in. And if we can dream a beautiful dream together of this planet, wouldn't that be something, my luminous warriors? Wouldn't that be something? So dream, dream, dream. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a really long podcast, but it's one of my little pet projects of dreaming. I love it. If you are having dreams and want to make some sense of them, reach out to us. All of us here on staff at the center are so happy to talk with you about what's happening in your dream time and in your waking dream time. And we can offer you some support and how to grow that gift and skill and to give it some context so you know. So check us out on our website if you want to join us. There are a lot of ways to join us now. We have a whole slew of new practitioners, a whole slew of new programming, and we're doing 40 Days to Optimal Health, where I'm partnering with medical professionals, psychological professionals, neurobiologists, nutritionists, and financial experts to help you get it together for total well-being in every way of your life, in a very mindful, soulful way. All right, my loves. Keep it real out there, and thank you for tuning into Naughty Shaman, where we like to keep the sacred a little wild and totally real.